Hello everyone and welcome to yet another Coding and Seal. It's Friday and I'm here, your host Johnny, and I hope you're having a lovely week, a lovely end of the week, a lovely weekend coming up. All the best, really. Let me know how you are, let me know your thoughts in the chat. But today we're gonna do something fun. Yet again, we're gonna work on our memory game, our JavaScript HTML memory game, the card game where, well, I can actually jump into showing you. You have the agenda to go over in just a little bit, but we have this site where it's pretty much the place where I showcase things that are happening with Svelte. So a bit of auth, a bit of theme mode toggles, a bit of working with databases, working with cookies, that sort of thing. And we've done a few fun streams. In real life, you'll probably not be tasked to create an HTML web game, but for your personal life, there are a few things I find more fun than creating something like this, than quickly sending a link to your friends. They don't have to download anything, they don't have to do anything other than click and play, and you're like, I made this, do you think it's fun? And I've done this with a few of my friends, and they think this classic game is quite fun to play. So this is what we've been working on, and we've added things in the last stream, like the sake whenever you get something wrong. We did use xstate, we refactored the logic to use xstate for a little bit, but then turns out I didn't quite like it, so I reverted back to the way we were using state management anyway before, more vanilla Svelte. But I did keep the nice little sake, and I think next level with video games is always the sound design. So I want to add a little bit of sound, still with the opportunity for the user to be able to turn it off if they don't wish to be bothered with like sounds. So a few fun ones, even more feedback when you get it wrong, something satisfying when you get it right, a fanfare when you win. That's the thing that I'm hoping to do today. And I think we'll manage it. I think it's gonna be smooth sailing. Let's see what I have planned here. So I've explained the game, I've explained the site, the repo, you can find it in the comments, feel free to have a look. It will always be public and I'll be trying to keep it up to date. I've managed so far, so I'll keep it going with the latest SvelteKit changes. There have been, once again, a few more with the form actions, which I really like, by the way. And we want to add our first sound effect when we click, then mute toggle, so if the user wishes, then they can keep the sounds off and never be bothered. We'll probably want to persist that setting so they don't have to turn the toggle off every time they visit the page. That's probably a good idea. In the end, a victory fanfare, and then we'll probably discuss having like separate sounds according to what the card set is. So if you have the popular one, maybe different sounds, and definitely if you have the animals ones, then you get like the rabbit when you click the rabbit. But that may be too much work, so I'll probably just talk about it and not actually do it. And then I would love a refactor of how we're doing the state management. Everybody loves refactoring, of course. But the idea is that now when we switch the card set, it resets the game and you start all over. So I think maybe we should decouple what I've got revealed with what the cards are. Currently, the statement says that the first card has the snake, and now it's selected, and this one, who knows what it has, but it's hidden, and if you manage to make a match, then it's revealed. But maybe we should just know the card positions and what else they match or something like that, and that's it, and hold what the actual display when they're revealed or selected can be a different thing. Probably best to explain it if we get there. First question is, will we manage to get the sound effects in? And if we do that, maybe more visibility for the daily versus practice mode. We are using seeding for this, so every day, if you are in the regular mode, you get the same board, so no matter how many times I refresh, we always get the snake. But you can also switch to the practice mode where you get a random seed every time, so you get different boards. And if you've done the one for the day, you can still keep playing. So if you win, you automatically get redirected to the version where you get the practice mode, the different seeds, the different boards every time. And then we'll want to persist the daily score in cookies, or maybe your highest ever score, really. We are keeping count of how many wrong guesses you've got. And maybe we want to do a Wordle style, like today you did like 10 guesses, but your highest ever or lowest ever really was 9. And you've played this game like for 20 days in a row or something like that. We'll see. And then we'll talk about persisting the database, which we'll probably not do because it is a lot of work. You'd require the user to be signed in and all of that. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. And of course, let me know what you want to see. Let me know what excites you about HTML, games, SvelteKit, anything really. All right, I think with this, we should get going. A complication with the sound effects, I should say, is that I am streaming my sound straight to you, dear audience, and I cannot hear what you are hearing. So hopefully you are hearing some soft music play now, and you will be hearing my desktop OS accents and the sounds that we'll be adding, but I will not. So I'll have to do this without being able to hear the actual sounds. So who knows? I have done just a slight bit of a setup. So the way SvelteKit works, by now, maybe you know if you've seen the previous episodes, we specify a source routes directory, and inside we nest all the routes we actually want to serve, we want to have UI for, and we have a games memory page. This is the UI for this because the path is /games/memory, so reflects this exactly. And the +page.svelte is the UI for this, which renders a board component, which is where I suspect we'll be adding the sounds, because this board component is the one that handles the card clicks and all of that. And the only prep I've done is that I've downloaded a few sounds that I'd like to use for this. And now, how do we bring them in SvelteKit? I think this won't be SvelteKit specific. I think this will be all about Vite, and the thing we'll be using is vanilla HTML. So we will be using the HTML audio element and the audio constructor to load a file in a specific URL. However, we'll want to do this after our board has been rendered, after the user has navigated the page. We don't want to server-side load this and ship this, no need for that. And since the format that I downloaded this for is AAC, if I try to import this, so let's say import, which one should we do first? Cart pick URL from sound effects. GitHub Copilot is trying to help me there, but not quite. So since I haven't specified any further Vite importers for AAC files, you see that I have specified a specific SVG plugin to import .svg files, but by default, I think Vite will try to import this as a string. So it will import the location it's gonna be serving this at. That's my hope. Let's see if it works. So it won't actually be loading all the kilobytes that this is. It won't be preloading this, but it will give us the URL that we'll be able to use in the constructor later. Did I add it to the page? That's not where I meant to add it. I want to add it into the board. So the board file here, import the card pick URL, and then on mount, so after the element has been rendered, after the board has been rendered in the browser, we can say that we have a card pick audio, GitHub Copilot helping here, and we want that to be exactly that. So card pick audio, we want it to be a new audio, and this is the URL. If my calculations are correct, we will be able to play this. So when anyone clicks a card, and we're not in reverting mode, because if a card is in the process of falling back to hidden, we ignore user input. And the user can't actually click the buttons, but just as a safety mechanism, we also early out there if we're in the process of reverting. In any case, we want to call it card pick audio, and maybe just for readability, I'll bring this up here, even though this will have been declared and set by the time this is possible to be clicked on. And I think just doing play will make a sound play. Let's see what we get. Did we get it? I don't know. Let me know in the chat. Maybe if I look at the audio levels, we'll see something. Yeah, I can see the audio levels jumping. So hopefully you're getting the sound that I meant to put in there, which was like a swipe type of sound. I am hoping, but this seems to be working, and it should be working every time. If I match, if I don't match, every time should be that easy. And I imagine this will work if we deploy this later, so you can click around and play with this. So that's fun. I think we can, we should be able to set the volume of this. And I think it's a float that goes like from 0 to 1. So if we want the default sound to be subtler, we can do this. And again, I rely on you to tell me, did this actually work? Yeah, probably. I'm trusting, I'm having faith in this. And then let's add a failure error. So when this happens, the shake happens, let's do the mismatch sound. And we'll do the same thing again. We'll say let mismatch audio be this, and have a mismatch URL. It should be this. And then we want the mismatch audio. Wow, what did I try to do there? Mismatch audio equals this. And I'll leave the volume here. And hopefully it sounds good. It should be mixing with, or maybe nothing is actually playing, because I'm not playing this sound anywhere, am I? So we always play this. I guess we could choose not to play it, but I suspect it will overplay nicely. If we've previously selected a card. Hey Bruce, thank you for letting me know that the sound works as expected. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone. So, if there is a previously selected card, if we're in this state, then is where we check whether we mismatched or not mismatched, or whether we've matched, I suppose. So if we get in here, we are checking if the one you selected now is matching with the one we've selected before. Else we get into reverting mode, we increase the wrong guess count, and we want to play the mismatch audio, which is all great. And yet again, hopefully we get the mismatch sound and it doesn't sound horrible. Cool. So let's do, I have like a match sound as well. Let's do all of them. Same thing, bring this in, load it. And this one, we probably want to play here where we're doing the did I match, did I select correctly? Then we can do match audio play. Or guess we have another one here. We derive whether the board has been solved and you get the confetti, but let's do this first. So failure sound, success sound. Hopefully I'll ask the chat again to kindly tell me at some point whether we got them all right. And now question is, if you've completely won, should we still play this sound that you've matched or not? If it sounds better not overlaid, we can just do it in the else statement. And then I guess this fanfare one, which always makes me think of Final Fantasy, but I picked a different sound from... didn't bring it in, so I guess it didn't play well. Let's try it again. Miss. Success. Hopefully it played. And finally, we want the fanfare URL, which I did bring it in from not on sponsor. I'm not doing sponsors, but I did bring it in from Artlist, where I do have a subscription to have this nice background music for this and the videos. I do like a bit of music to hide my ums and my thinking. And of course, let's send it here. Let's see this and use it here. All right, so the situation should be you mismatch a card, you get the sound effect. You always get the swipe sound effect as the card's turn, even when you do the first one of the cards. If you match correctly, you get the success sounds, not the you've mismatched sounds, but you don't get the success sound when it's the final success, where we should be getting the confetti as well, which we've done in our animation video. All right, so 4 sounds. I had 5 for the toggle as well if the user doesn't want sounds. So let's see. Let's give it a proper go. My thinking face is clearly on. Hopefully it worked like a charm. If not, let me know and you can pair program with me, like fake pair program, and give me suggestions. And then, as I mentioned before, we do get into the practice mode, so now the board will not be the same. Did I? Interesting. This is a bug, clearly. Why did it go to the animals one? Something. Bruce, yeah, worked. Amazing. Thanks for letting me know. Nailed it. So I will switch. Thank you, Cookify Media. Nice to see you in this stream as well. Thanks for the affirmation, everybody. I realized there is a bit of a latency as well from where I stream to when I actually see the messages, if that makes sense. Anyway, let's go back to the agenda. And I think we've did this, but we want to do the toggle next. That's right. So not focus on the daily and practice mode, which I spotted the bug and immediately I wanted to rabbit hole myself into that. But yeah, let's do the mute toggle because some people don't want sounds. I think there was a time where everybody ever wanted when I was making their website was like some music carpet in the background and lots of sound effects and all of that. But we went overboard with this. It was super tacky. So then people didn't want any sounds in the websites. But now we're more mature. We're more control with our powers in the front-end world. So we are allowed to have some music even, or some sound. If I had created, if I had found a nice little loop, I could even add it here. But I didn't find one, because I do think you can specify, much like how you can specify the volume, you should be able to specify the loop attribute. So if you set the loop to true and you start it playing, then it will always play. So if you want background music for your games, that's how you would do it. You would specify in the audio constructor after you've done it that you want loop to be true, and then it would play forever. I think I remember a time where you could actually pass an options object in the audio constructor, but I think that's been deprecated now, so I'm not gonna chance that. I am gonna do the load it up and then change the property like this. All right, sip of coffee then, and afterwards the mute toggle. We'll actually want some UI for this, which I didn't think about. But let's say that for sure we'll need to be tracking some state. So let's say that sound effects on starts as true. And even if this is off, we would want to load the sounds, because I do think it's too much work to save a few kilobytes. It would be a premature optimization to only do this if you haven't loaded them already. So we'll see how we work on that. But I suspect that every time we do play, we will want to check whether the sound effects are on. And maybe a way to do it would be to just do this. So if this evaluates to true, then you also run this method. Is that too hacky? Another way to do it is to have like a sound effects object or something. And that's responsible to check whether to actually play the sound or not play the sound. But maybe that's over-engineering. Maybe not. So hopefully the sound is still on here. And I can see the audio levels pinging up. The other way we could do this would be having something like a sound effects thingy, and then you pass it the sound effect you want to play, and then it's responsible for playing it. So I'll just show it. I don't think it's a better way to do it. And then you pass it the HTML. So it's going to be a play sound effects if toggled on, if enabled, or something like that. And you expect the audio element to be passed along, and then you do the audio play, but only if the sound effects are on. But you can put it in an if statement instead of like one line in it, and maybe that's like a bit safer. So doing it like this, you'd only play it. This is responsible of checking the sound effects on, instead of doing this potentially ugly thing, or maybe the thing that you would forget. I guess that's an argument for doing it like this, that if you were to do it with the sound effects on, every time you add a sound effect, you should be like, oh, remember to do this only when the sound effects are on. So maybe I'm turning a new leaf here. Maybe I'm changing my opinion, and I think it would be cool to do like that. Too many. Grab too many. So let's grab these three. say play if enabled, things should still play. But now it's time for a toggle. And interestingly, the board is just this part with the cards. Let me bring it slightly more up. Which means that the UI for this is back into our page component that renders the board. Our UI so far, which keeps counts of the wrong guesses and the card set, is in a different component. So we may want to actually be exporting this. So export that sound effects. And if you really want to over-engineer this, even this, you could make it like a sound effects player object or instance or whatever you want to call it. Or and then it's this page component that passes it down. And maybe you can even just pass the sound effects and the strings. So this, the other component, would be the one responsible for loading the sounds or not. But I don't know, for now, I think it would be premature to decide whether to do it or not. The big thing is that I want to be exporting this and let's say not passing a default. And now it's here that I want to set sound effects on to true. And this should still play, but it should not play. Oof, am I not using this? Surely, yeah. Oops. So now it should play. Audio levels say yes. I didn't see a jump this time, so this must be true. And now I do want to refactor this to our sound effects. I like starting booleans with this, but maybe that's not that important when you're not doing PHP or vanilla JavaScript. Are sound effects enabled? Maybe just sound effects enabled. I'll keep thinking of this for too long. I just want this to read like a boolean more. Nah, it's readable enough. It's fine. It's fine. Fun stuff. How do you do the toggle then? So we have this aside for the cards and the guesses. I guess we'd need an input component here. We should make this, we should give a nice little icon here, but we'll see. Input. All I want is the class, really. Maybe not. So the input component will not be having anything inside it. It will be self-closing. We do want to bind the checked sound effects on, and when it changes, we do want it to be a checkbox. Thank you, TypeScript. We want it to be a checkbox. We want to update it, but I guess that will happen natively. So here it is, doesn't look too cute, but now, no sound effects. Sound effects. Looks nice and dandy to me. So that's a rudimentary way to do it. I wonder if we can find like a nice SVG for sound toggle. Sound toggle SVG animation. It's way too much for this. That's probably something that I will be adding at another time. They're like a nice svelte toggle with icon. Maybe this. Try it in the REPL, always nice. Doesn't compile. Does. All right. Quite cool. I don't think we'll actually use it, but yeah, this is it. We can see what they're doing there. I wonder if we can pass CSS variables here. I'd say probably. You're binding, you have the label. I actually like this. Let's see, some people are using it. Can bring it in. The only thing that stops me is that I would maybe like to do a nice little animation like I do for the wrong guesses to change this. So let's do it this way first, actually. So this is how I ended up doing this wrong guess counter. As it happened, there was a bug with the Svelte version. There was a bug in the Svelte version that made this not quite work. We tried to do this in one of the previous streams with vanilla Svelte, but had to do a bit of a hackier and less pleasing animation in the end. But the way you're supposed to do a simple animation like that, relatively simple animation like that, in Svelte is that you can use the hashtag csharp, the sharp key syntax, and say that I want this animation to play whenever this thing changes. So whenever the wrong guesses change, that's when I want the animation to change. I didn't know that. But even if I did, the in and out were buggy in that version of SvelteKit. I thought that if you did want the vanilla Svelte animations to play, you were forced to only add them. It was only possible to add them in components inside an if or if-else statement. So it's good to know that you can actually specify that I want the identifier of this changing to be the key. So let's see if we can do something here. And a span. My editor trying to help, but not quite. Then another span, but the key is gonna be whether sound effects is on. I don't want an input, sorry, GitHub Copilot, but I do want just an emoji, really. So it's not the key statement, sorry. I did want to show this, but now it's a regular if else. So else bell. That was a nicer emoji. How do I get it? Got it. But I do want to wrap both of them in spans that will have similar fly-ins and fly-outs as the counter. So I want this to be here. And maybe that's how I wanted to fly in and out, but this can just be a span as well. All right, so position a bit dodgy as well. So maybe put this inside another div. With a position relative. Whoops. We'll center align it momentarily. But my question is, I guess we can just leave it here for now. The big thing we want to see is if I toggle this, they do nicely turn around. The question with these things are usually, do you want to... So since this is the label, anywhere I click will give me the toggle, which is nice. The question is, do you want this to show your current state, or do you want to show what happens when you click it? So should the sound on be when the toggle is actually on or not? Don't really know. But I guess the check mark makes it. Makes it a bit more obvious, the checkbox. And here I can do a ternary to say and maybe this whole thing can have a cursor pointer to further sell what's happening. Cool. How do we align this? Like this. I wonder. Is it because this is not top 0? No, certainly not. I remember that I did need the absolute for the fly to actually work. Yeah, so the flying animation doesn't quite work without the absolute positioning, unfortunately. But right, so our div had no height. Now it does, so the top alignment from here works without the top alignment. This wouldn't work. Or would it? Yeah, I was making it up. Much better. Cool. what do we want to do further than that? Maybe a little sticky space. Gets eaten, so not quite. What do we want to do with this checkbox thingy? Do we want to grow this? Sound effects are on. It still pushes through, and I don't understand why. Because it should be having, it should have all the space that it needs. So let's just not do this. Fine by me. And then if this is not grow, go somewhere. But maybe W32, something like that. Probably looks fine. It's even smaller. Right, so not the most beautiful UI, but probably good enough. Is there anything quick we can do here? Can we make this chunkier? I think it's the default checkbox size. To make it nicer, we'd probably need to do something more like the toggle component we were looking at previously. Anyway, once again, all of this means that I'm getting sound effects. I'm not getting sound effects according to what the user wanted. And I do suppose if we go to the board component, creating this helper method, which is responsible to check whether the sound effects are on or not, and only using that and not playing directly, is the thing that ensures that all of them are playing or not playing according to user preference, which is pretty cool. Instead of having to double check that every time we audio play, we're checking whether the sound effects are on. Sweet. If the user has done this and then they come to play again, I'd love this to be in the off state. And is this a case for local storage? Is this a case for cookies? We'll see. Let me go back to the agenda. See what else we have. Mute toggle added, but let's see. Persist preference to local storage. Just persist preference. Really. That's probably what we'll do next. I will say per card soundboard. If we do, how do we get these cards? Let's show the server for a little bit. The server has hard coded our card sets. So the default card set is this emoji, the flags is these, and so on. And what we could do is that instead of each card set just being the emoji collection, it could be something like the faces. It could be an object that says the faces is the emoji collection and the sounds are this, and then you have like a limited set of sounds for like the picks and the fanfare and the toggle, and you just change that. Or you could even do so the emoji collection for each face you have a different sound, which would be especially fun, I suppose, for the animals ones. I don't know how different it would be for most of the emoji, but I guess here for the Space Invader you can play a retro sound, I suppose. But especially fun for having little doggos do a little woof and that sort of thing. from London, I do know that foxes are not something that you particularly want to hear speak or make any sounds. They sound quite dramatic. And Ofini, nice cap from the chat. Yeah, it's one of my favorites, although I do have quite a few nice mugs, if I do may say so myself. I like how big this one is as well. So I do think I will take the easy way out with the per card soundboard by just kind of talking how we may do it and not actually do it today, and move on to refactorings that could allow things like that more. Well, mainly also getting rid of this, where if you do change the card set, then you're doomed to refresh your game, which is not as fun. Like if you've made it so far, you should have an easy way to be able to see what the card faces are, is what I'm trying to say. So we'll attempt that shortly. But first, I do think I will try to add a timer for this, because unlike the sounds where I had a lot of confidence in, I'm not sure how long this can take. So, persistence. Easy way would be to do local storage, but much like we're saying for the theming, if you do local storage, then you're kinda doomed to have the sync happen on client side. For the theme, you can get away by having a very lightweight script that immediately as the JavaScript loads, it runs, even before it loads the rest of the Svelte JavaScript bundle. Maybe you have an inline script in your app.html that takes care of that thing. But the best way, I think, is to use cookies for this, like we use for the theme. So, because local storage, the server cannot read, but cookies, the server can read. So the server can tell whether you've preferred to have the sound effects on or off. And respect that. Which would mean that our server would be the thing that returns the sound effects on here. And then our page will be finding the sound effects on from the data. Which should still... So interestingly, I have found that this thing is a Svelte thing called reactive assignment, where we are, for convenience, destructuring a few properties out from the data object, and we are destructuring sound effects on. But if you do that, it seems it messes up whether a variable can be bound or not. So I will not get this out with reactive assignment. I will have to use it with data sound effects on. So get it straight from the data object. So now hopefully it toggles nicely again. Cool, but it still will not persist because the server always will return true. And that's the thing we want to change. And we want to get the sound effect setting from the user, from the cookies. And let's find another place where we're doing cookie stuff, which is probably like the theme. Oh, we're not getting the theme. We are setting this, so we may take some inspiration from this for setting the theme cookie, the sound effects cookie. But maybe the login one. No, of course, we are reading cookies from the hook file, the server hooks file. So let's just do this. And I guess our hooks file could also be adding the sound effects on or off in the locals. I guess it could be responsible for that. We can have other games and they should share whether people want sound effects or not. So yeah, we'll do it like that. So the quickie is this, and we can say get sound effects on from cookie. And then do we default to on? I would say so. So let's say that the key is going to be sound effects on. And we want to return if the sound effects on has anything. Or I guess if it's not explicitly set to false. If it's explicitly set to false, then we return false, or else we return true. So if they don't have a cookie, or if they even have anything other than a cookie that reads false, then the sound effects will be on. And we're doing this because here we want to do get sound effects on from cookie and put it in a sound effects on thing property in the locals. And there is an app.d.ts that every new SvelteKit app has, where you can extend what goes in the locals here. And we can say that we do have sound effects on Boolean, as GitHub Copilot understood. Sweet. So we should still start with this being on. This is all well and good. And very understandable. It just means we haven't broken anything. But now we want our page server. So in our routes, the games, the memory, there is a page.server file. And I'm just getting into here. So it's a bit, hopefully more obvious where we're at. Instead of always returning true, we want to return the value from the locals, which should be available in the load method. So locals sound effects on. And still, this is respecting what the cookie value should be, but there is no cookie value, so we are defaulting to having them on. So if we were to say the opposite, that only if it's true, if the user has explicitly set the cookie value to true, then this should start the other way around. Oops, same the wrong thing there. So you can see that now it starts with the sound effects on because we've defaulted in a different way, but I think it's safe enough to default to them being on. So sound effects on by default. How do we actually set this cookie? Since it's not memory game specific, maybe it's like game specific, but maybe not. We do have this theme file that I suspect we can take inspiration from. And I didn't nest it inside like an API directory or anything like that. So maybe I'll do the same and just create a sound effects on directory, which has a server file where when you post to sound effects on, it's gonna set your cookie value. Form data here to see if they want them on or not, I guess. Let's say that we'll get the enabled value. Let's say that there is a form that where they sent enabled. And we don't need this. I think this is literally going to be the string true, but we'll see how this gets parsed. And we want to say set a cookie no matter what for our side in any path in our side. That's HTTP only. And we never want to expire it. We won't be deleting the cookie ever. So all we need is this. So to actually hit it, let's go to our routes, games, memory, plus page to Svelte, the UI, and say that maybe this is inside a form. Unfortunately, I'm not going to use a Svelte action for this one. I am going to use JavaScript. I guess if I wanted to use a Svelte action, I could add it as an action here. Does that make more sense or less sense? I'll see. I'll do it the traditional JavaScript way, and then we'll see if we'll expand to do it the SvelteKit way. So let's flex again, flexing all the way down. And let's not do anything here, because what we will be doing for now would be creating another method, handle sound effects toggle. And now we can say that our checkbox input, we can give it a name. We should give it a name. Sound effects on. It will have the value whether it's checked or not. And we want to fetch we want to do a post request to our sound effects on. And we want the body to be the form data, I guess. So this should be getting the current target, because this is gonna be a Svelte SFX submit event or event handler. Yeah, a submit event on an HTML form element. Which will mean that I should be able to pass it into the form here on submit, also prevent default without, I was going to say without TypeScript complaining, but clearly I forgot something. And yeah, of course it caught me out when I was doing it yesterday for the breaking changes upgrades. It needs this to be an event. It needs to explicitly be an event, not a submit event. I don't know why. But now TypeScript is happy. And I should be able to do something here. Let's see where else we're doing fetches and see how we're submitting the data there. So for the session, we do just send delete to delete our session and log out. This is fair enough. But here, what are we doing? We're doing Subaway stuff. So how would I actually be sending form data here? I think SvelteKit docs will have the example. As we go there, often says that you realize I'm using the headers to set the cookie instead of using the cookie API. When you say the cookie API, do you mean the API that this very popular library has? Insanely popular. Everyone is using it. And I probably will refactor to use it as well. But when I was doing the videos, I did want to actually expose what really happens behind the scenes without bringing a third-party library. So this library is doing the same thing. It parses the cookies for you. It can serialize cookies, and you pass in options like the max age or the expires, or whether you want it to be secure or not, in a much more convenient JavaScript style format with the options object. So I do think it's better and more pleasant to use. But what it does behind the scenes is like this. It returns a string that's like this one. Ooh, interesting. So often he elaborates that now you can do this in SvelteKit. Let's see. Some live docs, Googling and comprehending. I think this is TypeScript related, so not quite what we want. So in here, we have the cookies and it's a cookie object. Oh, it's amazing. Right, and apparently behind the scenes, it does use that cookies package that SvelteKit is already printed in. That's cool. That's less work for us. I will have to refactor to this in the end, probably offline. But yeah, I guess if you have the cookies in the request, let's have a quick look here. So instead of doing this like a madman and parsing the cookie as well, the event has cookies now, right? And therefore you can access all of these things much more pleasantly. So they've done the work for us. I'll be excited to refactor and do this. Thanks for letting me know. This will be much more pleasant. But in any case, I'll do it offline, that type of refactoring. My question was, from the docs again, about form actions. I think you can submit like regular forms. I think they have an example of handling your own callbacks and doing the JavaScript thing at some point. So I'm hoping somewhere they're saying, let's do this fetch, and then the body is the form data. Great. And you don't have to specify that the type of the body, the content, is form data or anything like that. It will just figure it out. Cool. So let's see how that would look. Let's see. So the data we want to send is the new form data from the current target, the target of the submit event, which we couldn't type, is going to be a form every time. So the body can just be the data. We don't need to stringify it. We don't need to specify what type of content we're sending or anything like that, supposedly. And we can wait for the fetch to happen. And maybe in response to that, like how would this happen? Because there is only like this checkbox that is actually a button. So maybe all of this is just unnecessary. Maybe I just want this to happen on click, like on change. And instead of a form, send it as a application JSON. Maybe this is a bit too much, because I want on click to immediately submit this. I could make on change to submit the form, but that's probably a bit much. So, input element, how do I get the parent of this? Will it actually work? So HTML input element get parent form. There must be something. Must have done this somewhere. Sure. Closest, that's a jQuery thing, come on. Right, here it is. If there is no form return, there is, do the form data thing and post there with everything. We could just send application JSON, I suppose. But what we actually want is on change, prevent default, handle the sound effects toggle. All right, so now I'm curious. Have we broken anything? What are we sending? What is happening? Let's see. Nothing obviously broken. This is flying by. And we are doing a request somewhere. And it's either on the on position or not. Yes. Interestingly enough. So let's go here. The question is, what have we set, if anything? So if we go to the application to check our cookies, we're setting null. Great. Because I did say I should call this enabled or not, but I didn't. I actually called it sound effects on. So get this from the form data, and I suspect this will set it to either on or off. On or null. Yeah, because it won't send anything. So let's say it's true or false. And now we're setting it true or false immediately. And if we refresh, it respects what we've had, because this is literally set to the string false. And we do all that stuff from our hooks server handler. Sweet. Doing refreshes here, and if I nuke that, those default to this. Doesn't matter what you do, you'll get the sounds. If you do this, you can play your game, you return tomorrow, sounds are still off for you. So cool. With the cookie thingy, I'll have to have a look with how you're turning it into the headers as well. I don't know if we just have access to the cookies thingy, because I don't imagine the existing cookies would you be doing like cookies set. But then how do you stringify the whole thing? I don't know. I'll have to revisit this offline, because clearly I am not confident in this. But this worked. Amazing. Should have been confident on that. Preference persisted. I talked about this. Nothing should have like a middle half checked thingy that I can do there. And now let's see if we'll do the refactoring to allow change in the card faces on the fly, which is this problem. You switch here, you kind of get a sneak peek of what was there as well, but you reset your game, like you do all of that. We may expose a different endpoint for all of that. Up next, is this running? Yeah, it is running. It does say there will be a break in just a moment, so maybe I will take it now. Maybe I'll have an ask, see how everyone is doing, how you folks are doing. A big game for game design in general. Today, Godot 4 goes in beta. Godot is an open source game engine, and I've been trying it out. I haven't ever made a game in a real game engine. I've only done JavaScript games like this, and mostly not even deployed to the public. Mostly I create them for like coding challenges, for like candidates, or to train up people or anything like that, because I do think they are kind of fun, and they do hide a lot of complexity, especially back in the day, like being able to be comfortable with doing asynchronous stuff. That really shows something. And interviews, coding challenges, live programming can be very stressful as well. So I did find that having the game context makes it a bit easier, makes it a bit more fun. And I had gotten good feedback from candidates from having that sort of challenge. Sometimes I did get the feedback that the challenge was too hard overall, but that's fair enough. I did tweak accordingly. Anyways, the point is, I've never finished anything with a real game engine before, and I'm having high hopes with Godot 4. Maybe I'll get into it more. I don't know if that's something that would be interesting you, but I do suspect I will get deeper into the weeds of game dev, and maybe there will be like some content there, like the angle of I'm pretty good at web dev and JavaScript and TypeScript and PHP and all of that. And like how can I handle GD script? How can I handle C# if I do like Unity or something like that? I think I won't be doing Unity. There's some controversy there as well. But with Godot, I don't know. There is, as I said, an interesting angle where I'm experienced in one part of coding and computer science, but definitely not when it comes to game engines and that sort of thing. So maybe that's something you'd like to see. I find a lot of people get into computer science overall because they like games. And by a lot of people, I mean me. That's how I initially got in there. But hey, enough background, if not enough Johnny lore. Let's move on to not doing this, but doing the refactor to allow change in the card faces on the fly. So let's have a refresher of that file I showed earlier, routes, schemes, memory, the server. We have this hard-coded collection of the emojis, and the backend sends you the whole board. The backend sends you whether something is visible or hidden. So the initial positions of the cards, it's already shuffled the board and all of that. And it also sends you the faces. So maybe, should I log this? Maybe not. I think I have a type somewhere, surely. So each card looks like this. It has a face and it has a state. And that's what the server gives you. It gives you a grid, so it gives you an array of cards that each have a face and each have a state. And my thinking is that maybe I should decouple what the face actually is from all of this. Maybe the final board, maybe the front end is the one responsible mixing the actual face, and the backend may be sending zeros and ones or something like that. Maybe a simple, maybe we can keep the face thingy, but then the front end overrides the face with like the selected card set. Maybe. The server is also sending all the possible card sets anyway here, but just the names of the card sets, not the actual emojis that are in them. So if you have like 10 million of them, it will be a bit fewer, a bit easier on the bandwidth. So let's have a think. If we get the initial board here and we shuffle the array of emojis, we have the emojis here and we repeat them twice and then we shuffle them. But instead of getting the emojis, let's commit this, by the way. I have a feeling that this may go like horribly wrong and I won't like it in the end, but I have liked adding the sound effects. So let's take our victories here. Have a quick look. Right. So sound, audio, anything? It's a feature. Sound effects, memory game. Do everything. All right, so now we can bail if I find that things go horribly wrong. So maybe get initial board doesn't do anything other than maybe has a range. Like do you specify how big the board is? Maybe not. Maybe it just takes nothing. Do I have like a JavaScript range shortcut? I do. I suspect it's an 8x8 grid. So we can create an array of not 8x8, 8x8, yeah, that's correct. And it's not 8x8. What am I talking about? It's a 4x4. It's 2 times 8 array. So 16 items here. But I want the face. Want the face to be the index. Maybe stringify it. Maybe. But then when we get initial board, it just takes one parameter now. Now we have this ugly board, which is still shuffled, but just has these things. Is it still shuffled? I guess the answer is no. Interesting. Is it just the seed we got? It's a practice one, so we should be getting a different one every time. Ah, of course. I'm doing the mapping afterwards, which is no. So the face should stay the same. Forget this ever happened. Forget all of this ever happened. But what do we want here? Instead of emojis, we want this to be an array of 8 where the keys we map to their index. Their index stringified. It's a why not? But we can only do the mapping outside of the spread array. Oof, we're really going for the array spreading here. Spread, spread, spread. And do the same thing again. So create this array. Map it. So this in convert. And instead of doing the same thing twice, we can actually say 0 to 1 to 8 string array. Do it twice. Did video copilot tell us that you can actually do this? Wow. Is this gonna work? It actually should be to 7, shouldn't it? And then we can spread it twice. And then we map it, and then we shuffle, which I think I removed. Ah, no, we've shuffled it here. Cool. Did Copilot not like that? I think it didn't. RNC is not a function. What? Oof, I undid this. Alright, so we saw a 7 and a 0, so we should be fine here. And this should get shuffled every time. Cool. Interesting, I would say. That's my favorite trick. Thank you, GitHub Copilot. Let's add regular string quotes, because we're not doing template interpolation here. But now, why are we doing this? Not because we want to do like this boring just number memory game. Although that could be an option, I guess. We do it because we want the UI to actually be mapping the real faces based on the selected card set here. Right. And how do we do that? So our page component gets the board from here. What does it do? It binds it to the board over there. And so maybe, where are we using the selected card set? Just here for the input. Interesting. So instead of doing this, we can say let board mapped board with custom faces be data board map and then you have the face and the rest of card. Do spread the rest of the card. or you have the card, really. You have the card, you spread the card, but you want the face to be dependent on the selected card set. I guess the selected card set is just the string. Interesting. So that's close. It's kind of close to what the GitHub Copilot is trying to do. But let's just map the face to like one emoji. So everything has the same face. And then pass this here. Do we bind this? I think so. So now everything is happy. You cannot go wrong with this. But we actually want to have the faces of the selected card set here. So like a little map where it says, if it's 0, it goes there, or something like that. So the server should actually be returning the emojis. So selected card set have a name and emojis. We can refactor this card set name to make it a bit more obvious. Selected card set is this, but now in the UI, this is not a string anymore. So where do we use it here? Thanks to the typing, it already knows that this is not comparable, but we can take the name out here. So this should still work. And question is, will this work? Will we be able to do selected card set, emojis, card face as an integer? Integer? One of the two. Guess the answer is no. Undefined. Interesting. So selected card set, that didn't exist. This? This? But how? And let's also not take it from the data, just in case. Here. Selected card set is not defined. This is not defined. Are we being serious? I will restart this just in case. I'm not trusting my eyes. But I guess I should have. Selected card set. On which level? On the server, surely, right? Ugh. I got this. Not on the server. Alright. Now, if I switch, nothing will happen. I guess we reset because I've said so. So something will happen. We have decoupled the faces from our state management. But let's look at the selected card set thing. So when this happens, we do set the card set to whatever we've now chosen, and we redirect to this URL, which was a bit of a hacky thing to do. But maybe that's not what we want now. Maybe it seems like this won't recalculate the board. But maybe if we extract this as a method, maybe that would be the easiest way to go about it actually. So map faces. So what we want is to do all of this again, really. And we want to remap it. So does this become a derived value once again? We'll see. Right, if it is a derived value, maybe we don't need to do any of that. So I'll double check. So instead of doing this as a let's say that we derive this by shuffling through this and overwriting this. I don't know if this will have a performance hit, but it may make this just work. Or maybe not. Ah, of course, because the selected position is also sent by the server, which we didn't want. We don't want this to happen. We want to keep the selected position. We want the board, we want the server to not tell us what the selected is. Cool. So actually, let's try to solve this the previous way. So still with a let here and the get mapped board. And what we actually do in the end is just a remap board. Maybe not. So this expects this. This is a card array. It's a page data board. Sure. And then it also returns a page data board. Cool. And all it does is map through things like this. And we want to run this and give it the board from the server, but rerun it when we do this select option toggle. So instead, do we want to change the URL? Probably. But we also want to say that our board with custom faces is the mapped board of the board with custom faces, which will apply the new faces now. And we don't need to reset the counter because we're not resetting to the beginning. All right, let's see if that actually works. Almost. So this didn't work because this board, of course, has the faces, doesn't it? And no index for them. You can't do this index trick anymore. So is this like a get refaced board type of situation? We can do this with two variables, like a board and a reference board. Oof, I've said board too many times. And from the game board, that's the one we map, which can also default to the reference board. So you only optionally pass this. But you do this from the reference board. So we map this, but we want the face from the reference board. Oof, this is very hard to read, I admit. All right, will this magically work? Maybe not quite. So our reference board here in the game board is the data board. But now when we do the select thingy, we want the reference board to still be our data.board. But the board with custom faces should be our game board. Maybe this will work. Let's see. Ta-da! And somehow this worked. I say that, but the state was different. So the faces were correctly changed, but something weird happened. Because the navigation happened, we got a different seed. Oh no, almost there. So if I manage to match anything ever again, am I actually getting completely different ones every time? So this changes the emojis correctly, but because we've navigated, we get a different board. So if we do refresh, we are in the correct one, but we get yet another non-seeded board. Interesting, I'd say. So if we weren't in the practice mode, so in the regular mode where we know what we're gonna get, this works because the board is the same every time, but thankfully we were on practice mode, which also gets us a different board every time. So our reference board is different now. So can we solve this without navigation? I guess yes is the answer. If we just don't navigate, we still set the card set here. So we will remember it next time. But it doesn't know to invalidate and remap. It doesn't know it needs to refetch that data. Oh no, almost. Doesn't know we need to fetch a different card set. Without navigation, but we need to solve it without navigation or else we're doomed. We can also be passing like a value to the cards. So let's think this a bit through. I've been obsessed about having the board be like an array of cards, but maybe cards are a different thing as far as the server is concerned. Maybe a board is a different thing as far as the server is concerned. It shouldn't have like a face and a status. Maybe it should just have faces. Maybe it should just have like coordinates or something. That's what I'm thinking. So instead of the server telling you this is your state, you have to figure it out yourself. So get the initial board. All you have, all the board is just an array of numbers, which are indexes. But now, would we be doing the parsing here? I guess so. But no, now the range would be fine, right? So 0 to 7 array, spread it twice. Then we don't need to map anything. And this is an array of numbers. We don't need this type either. But now, the board with custom faces, what are we doing there? Maybe we don't need a reference board and a game board. Maybe we do, we'll see. So game board, now let's just say reference board here. This only has indices, no matter where you check it. And you want a status to start as hidden, be hidden. And then you want this to be just I. Just the index again. I think that makes sense. But is the status wrong? The board with custom faces, you give it whatever the server gets us. You map to see the indexes, indices. And you map a status hidden to it and the face from here, which seems to be working. But is the status like not hidden? What is this? Card type should be this. Great. Face and card state. It's not status, it's state. All right. This works. What happens once we do this is my question now. Do we remap the board? We do want to remap the board for sure. So all we need is a mats. But of course it defaults to its previous position. So we will try again to do the game board thing. It's maybe a card array. And if you do pass it, not happy enough. If you do have a game board, then it's that state, or else game board on the index is there. Where does the question mark go? I guess we can just do a truthiness check. Do a more regular ternary here. So if you have the game board, use the state from there, or else use hidden. And initially, just pass null. But then we pass our existing board game with custom faces. All right. These appear. I never expected that. Interesting. Interesting. So what are we actually doing in here? Maybe for the game board we do a completely different thing. Right, so maybe we do want like two methods, I guess, which we'll only use once. So what we were doing before, I think it's gonna be easier. So no reference board craziness, nothing like that, no need for that method. Let's say from the board, from the data, we want to do this. Great. And then no extra helper method, I guess. Just here we want the board with custom faces. We want to map through it. But then we don't know the values, do we? Without navigating, how would we know? We do need to keep a reference to the original index, to the original value. So the value is I. And then in here we can have the whole card. We can spread the whole card. But too many arrows. But we want the face to be selected card set. Or what did we ever call this? Data, selected card set, emojis. card y, card I, card value, rather. All right, I have a feeling this will not work. So let's see if I do this. The problem is we're not navigating, so we don't have the new card sets. But we could get this with an API call without getting a different board. And for that, we could create a new Svelte endpoint. So maybe a new directory like art sets. And then we have like a name. And then a plus server.ts. So this server thingy shouldn't be a directory. Should be a file. Do we have other server thingies? We have a few. Maybe this one is the most relevant one, the one that fetches our ideas. So if we go here, we can say get the name, and then we can have like a card set repo or something, but we won't for now. All we'll have here will be what we have in here, the emoji collections. Because I want to see, does this actually work? And if that exists, we can return 404, but I think there is a helper for that actually now. Or maybe we just want to return a response. I don't know if there is a helper actually. So let's not do that for now. Let's just return this array. Or let's do the same thing of returning the emojis and nest inside. We have this array. Because what I want is set the URL search params here, but let's games, memory, card sets, current target value, await that. Oh, this won't actually do anything, so I'll have to have another look to persist it if we don't navigate to it. The response was okay. Then we do all of this. However, we want to take the emojis out after parsing the JSON response. And the face will be the emojis in that position. All right, I'm more confident that this may actually work. All right. Can I match anything else? So that works. The problem is we do not persist which one we actually want. Still on the popular one. Yeah, so that's one problem. But the question is, did we fix the mode? The mode equals practice. So when it's the practice mode, we get a different grid every time. I'll never match anything if I don't pay more attention. If I keep randomly clicking. All right, we got something. And I need to get something else, so I'm higher up the screen. Will it work now? All right, so these feel matched. So I think this has worked. Cool. But the problem is that I refresh and then I am back to like the original one. That's the one thing to change. So JavaScript history, change search params. I wonder if SvelteKit has a helper without having to use the go-to. I don't want to. I kind of want to go there, but not really. Let's see. If I go there, it will make me go there with the same seed. So search param somewhere. Yeah, whenever you encounter a URL, but where do I encounter a URL? I guess it will be available as window location. Does that affect the JavaScript? So my current URL has card set popular. Bring this a bit to the left. So window or just location URL. Ooh, undefined. So it has the search here, but I was thinking I could get the URL and set it. So what if I do my search params are URL search params from location search. And get the card set. And it's popular, great. But then I do search params set card set to animal. Doesn't change it, but then if I do lesson search equals search params. All right, it does change it. But it navigates as well, which is not what we want. The moment we navigate, we're gonna get a press port, which is my current nemesis, current problem. There's nothing like too wrong with navigating. But if we get a different board every time, is this maybe not a problem? Nah, it is. Like you do want to change this. I think it would be fun to change this. Let's see if the go-to has anything more. Does it have like cool options or something? Didn't actually get me there. Navigate or whatever. Replace state. Maybe. Like, so if we set replace state, nah, I think everything will still run. I think everything will still run, unfortunately. If we were getting the card sets from a different resource, and we could say if we could just invalidate that part. I think everything we'll do will return everything, which will return a new board for us. A way would be to get the same seed again, but then when you win, you'd need to specify a different seed. And if you refresh like every day, you'll be getting again the same board, which maybe you wouldn't want. Maybe too much for a feature no one wants. Thankfully, I did stash everything here, so maybe we don't want to do any of that. Maybe we want to keep like the card sets name type of thing. Maybe we want like a UI for our card sets at some point, but maybe not. I think this is where I will be calling it though. What else was in the agenda for today? I think it was about persisting stats. More visibility for the daily versus practice mode. That's something we could do. So I will say, let's forget this ever happened. So at the very least, all of this and all of this back to the regular way to do things. At the end of the word. Just want to map something. Right, but when you win, do I say anything about congratulations you won? In X tries. display the guesses needed. As many. My editor is trying to help a bit too much. Mind blown. You needed this many wrong guesses. Or alright, you want perfect, blah blah blah. You needed this. Not needed there. Play again. Why are we doing this? We're doing this because maybe in the page we want to expose the mode that you're in with maybe another toggle. Maybe just a value. So before the wrong guesses, the mode is whatever current mode. Is that something the server returns? Let's check again. And it's the paid server memory. So let's return the mode. Why not? And make use of the mode. Data mode here. Maybe mix some uppercase there. If we don't have a mode, we are in the regular daily mode. Let's see. Or daily. And that's where we could have a toggle back to the other type of mode. But I think we won't do it because I'm clearly running out of sugar. I'm quite hungry. Which affects definitely my ability to chat while doing code. So let's try to match one last time and hopefully get into the practice mode in the end. That's a feature we did some other time. Not too bad. Need to go to practice mode, which makes sense because that's the one that as a seed. So you'll get to play a different one. But maybe you would want to be able to play the daily one every time. Yeah, anytime I do it under 10, I'm super happy. So you could have like the date or the random seed. That would make some sense. Maybe the mode is actually the mode plus the date. Yeah, maybe that's all we need. Now, because then if we do the toggle, it will be a bit weirder. So what are we doing here for the seed? We've already calculated it. So I think we may just be able to do it. Return the seed and get it out. Maybe not. Did I not return it? It's here, surely. Ooh, it's undefined. All right, I see. So if it's undefined, we get one every time. We get a different one every time. So we can actually say here where we're doing the seed. Only if we have one. This is like, what's this React syntax? That will never work here. All right, so it's a practice, but we are actually able to give not number anything as a seed here. Or are we not? Because this got the daily seed. Did we not write this functionality? Ooh, interesting. So yeah, if there is a seed, we should have been using it instead of doing this. Interesting. So let's say that if the mode is practice, wait, so if the mode is daily, then the seed should be get current date seed. Or else, if the mode is practice, question mark, if there is a seed, use it. Or generate a random one? I'm not actually sure. How would we generate? a seed here. Right, if there is also a seed from the URL, don't want to multiply anything, then use this, then use it, or it's undefined. All right, so when does this thing that it may be a string? It doesn't understand this. Seed from URL. Oops, let's get it up. It's this. And type of this is seed from URL. Then use seed from URL. And then TypeScript is finally clever enough to understand that this is a string. And you can see it starts appearing here. We don't provide the seed, it will give us a random one and something from the future. And I don't know if it is possible with this RNC library. Can you get the seed afterwards? Maybe yes, maybe not. That's something for me to check as homework. Because it would be cool to see what seed we got in the end. Or maybe we can do like a time string here and then we're all good to go. But we'll see, I'll do homework on this. And if we are in daily mode, which you can only toggle through the URL, you do get the date here. And let's figure out date format, localize. Let's see how we could use this native HTML feature. Should eventually load for me. And then we call it a day. It's been a fun one. I think we started really strong with the sound effects. I really enjoyed that part for sure. I haven't used sound effects in a long time, but I felt like this would be it. So no unpleasant surprises yet. I think a surprise could be the AAC format when I deploy to Vercel. We'll figure out if that actually works or not. That could catch me out. That was the one thing that I was most suspicious of. So if I do this, my question is, if I go to the console and then say, create this formatter and format whatever we got here, this date, will it format it nicely for me? Nope. And what are we doing to get this date, by the way? Well, doesn't really matter. What happens if we do new date here? We do get a date, great. So if we pass this, if we pass the new date in here and format it, we get the same thing, but European style. And if you're in the US, you'd get US style, or, you know, different ways. What other options can we pass here? Like the short and long of it. Date style. I think that's what we may want here. Are there helpful docs somewhere? We'll find out. I guess not, because this is the seed. If you actually pass this as the seed, you should get the same one. So I'm not willing to format it. So I guess I will leave it at that. Then on the win that we managed to display the mode here. Not bad. But we did do a few more things today. I always have like a very ambitious agenda with these. We did do the sound effects by importing via Vite the sound effects. We did do the, yes, I was trying to format the date maybe with like a, you know, it's 16th of September 2022 and keep it localized to you. But then I thought that this is the actual seed. So if you were to pass the seed in the URL, so if I were to actually do end seed equals this, it would give you the same one, even if you did it in a different date. So if you go to practice mode as well, and mode is practice, then you should get the same one. No matter which day you're on, this is the actual seed. Well, if we format it nicely, then it would be like a problem. But maybe we should do it just for the fun of it, I suppose. So if there is a seed, maybe a ternary on this level would make sense, actually. So if data mode equals whatever the mode is, daily, then do something, else we do something else, and then we end the if, and I just need to remember the magic symbols we need to use. So if the mode is daily, else the mode will be practice, and if there is a seed, we format it. But when it's this, we should be able to do new date, as you say, using the seed. We know that that will be in a date format. I think Svelte TypeScript wants another ternary here to ensure we have seed. And this if. And yes, we got the date, and I'm happy to hear your suggestion. I suspect it's gonna be this, or whatever we wrote here, this. And then we get the exact same thing. So the question is, what do we pass in the parameters here? Interesting. So TypeScript really doesn't like this, but clearly real life does like it. I'm interested to find out the why. Ah, nice. So not date format. But the question, so often in the chat, suggests the to local string. Can I pass it undefined for the NGB or whatever else, and then it gets anything? Let's try it out. So we have the new date, and the claim for the chat. Been right so far, so I have high hopes, is that we just call the local string to this. Keeps eating my parentheses. And then I guess the first parameter could be undefined, or is there like a super type of thing? So to keep it UK agnostic. And then we can say a year numeric, for example. See what we're getting. Month sort, but also day numeric. What are our options here? I guess the same. You don't get like the second or third or first and anything like that. So that could be good enough. Maybe more readable. I guess we have enough room to specify this. Yeah, this like I do have like a sorter keyboard on my Mac here that doesn't have all the keys, and I've remapped a few of them, so I think I've broken the force intelligence shortcut, unfortunately. But this kinda reminds me. Can I emulate local? Guess not. I was trying to find in the Chrome inspector if I could emulate a different locale, but I guess you'll have to trust us that this one, if you're watching from the US or from somewhere that has a different format here, order of how you usually print dates, it would appear different. So yeah, not bad. I imagine next time we can add a little, or offline if we don't keep on that. And often, yes, indeed, I think that's the formatter object that I've created, I've referred to here. I haven't used this one in a while, but I use the international number format quite often. And that one I do create as an object outside of the methods where I do call it to have the config that I want to without needing to remember every time that I want, like 2 digits or whatever else. It's quite handy. So the other one to keep an eye out is this one. So this is super useful because you're often asked to create a dashboard and to have very specific formatting. So if you're over 1 million, maybe only show 1 digit. If you are over thousands but less than 1 million, then show 2 digits of precision. And it does help to create like this formatter outside of the place where you're actually doing the formatting. And then you have this ready, constructed, always the same way, and you just use that configure formatter to dot format something. It's quite cool, but that's the one I use much more often. This one I don't use that often, so it is tripping me out what exactly the format should be. And especially why TypeScript doesn't like when I try to format a date object. So TypeScript in my VS Code is saying this should be a string strictly, not a date object. And I don't really know. I guess I could have done date to string and then it would be fine. Anyway, I think that's where we're gonna call it today. Hit me up with any questions. We did add the more visibility for the daily and practice mode. We didn't persist the highest daily score, but I would love to do that after the also new knowledge of the built-in cookies packets that SvelteKit has. So I'd love to do this at some point. The biggest thing was the sound effects. I think that was fun. Thank you everyone for watching, especially the ones that keep helping me in the chat. It's always fun to code with company, and it's always fun to get unblocked by something, by someone else. It's always very helpful and very nice. And even if you suggest something that doesn't try out to be correct, or even if it is correct, but I decide not to use it, that's always pleasurable. That's always like an opportunity to learn something more and try things out, and show it to others as well. So again, thanks a bunch. Last call for questions, and as always, comment in any video. I do read the comments with great pleasure, and suggest what you'd like to see next in the streams or next in a video. I'm still working on the playwright video. It's no joke. Every time I do a video that's over like half an hour, it takes me 5 months to do, which is quite unfortunate. Maybe I'll try to sneak in like a shorter one because these seem to be easier for me to do. But I do want to show things that you think are fun, that you think are useful, maybe some things that you encounter at work or side projects or wherever else, maybe things that seem like they should make sense but aren't quite making sense. We can try them out together. Do suggest anything you'd like to see, and I'll do my best to do a bit of research and then do a live stream on it. Usually the live streams are more off the cuff. I have the rough idea and then we figure it out on the fly. But of course, if I do a video, I do my best to do a lot of research and retries and more investigations to actually provide a video that you can use for a while until there are further breaking changes at the very least. So switch to the face cam, which is still quite barren. I keep forgetting that I keep mentioning that it would be fun to create an overlay app to have a nice fancy overlay that I can put to OBS. I cannot show my OBS screen, but if you don't know how that works, Open Broadcasting Software is the acronym. OBS is probably the most popular streaming software helper tool, and the way you do a lot of the UI is that you literally just say, for this widget, hit this URL, and whatever you get on that screen, overlay it on top. So it feels like it would be kinda easy to do a plugin for OBS because it's just deploying a web app, and I've deployed web apps before. So yeah, it's something every time I stream I think about that I should create an overlay, but then I forget about. I'll try to put it in my Notion doc of ideas as well. Anyway, I'm rambling too much. I will wish everyone a very lovely evening, a very lovely weekend as well. Any one of you getting new iPhones? that would be fun. Did they do anything like super extreme with this one? I don't want to get into this debate for a while, but my last one was the iPhone 11, and that was a big change with like the what do they call it? The super wide, the ultra wide photography, the ultra wide lens. I did enjoy that upgrade back then, but I think this one is gonna be like a milder one, except the dynamic islands. Like that's the biggest thing I've seen, and it's like the blend of software and hardware had me amazed. It's been maybe since the original iPhone when I saw like the pins on the Google Maps, and I was like, oh my god, we can use a smartphone like this. That was so fun and so playful and something I hadn't seen before. Huge win on the OS team, I guess, that did this with the dynamic island. But other than that, like features-wise, it's gonna be light to use, but I'm sure I won't be taking better photographs despite the bigger pixels. Anyway, why am I rambling on this? 14 max for the battery life. Hopefully it's gonna be good. I think with a non-pro one though, you don't get a dynamic island. That's the exciting thing. That's the thing to play around. I'd love to see how it looks in real life as well, because of course on the demos it's gonna look amazing and like seamless with the actual black non-pixels, the actual black part of the phone where the cameras are. So I'm very curious to see how that works. And yeah, Pro always on display. I don't know how much. I remember years ago. I do favor iPhones now. I've been an iPhone user for many years, but I did switch from having an iPhone to Android and then back to iPhone. So I feel it's legitimate for me to have this opinion that I like the iPhones better. I have tried out elsewhere. But the point is that with my last Samsung phone, like years and years ago, they had the always on display as well. That could only show like a little clock, but it was still an always on display. But now Apple is going all in. They've reinvented the always on display. It's gonna be blurring your pictures. It's gonna look amazing and maybe eating your battery life a tiny bit. I don't really know. But yeah, it is quite fun to see, but not something that will change how I use the iPhone. I think the dynamic islands would make me use it more pleasurably, but again, maybe the more megapixels don't make the cameras any better. Maybe if the pictures are the same quality, because of the more pixels, you'd be able to print them a bit more. That would be cool. Not that I print pictures all the time, but that would change things. Oh well. I've rambled about TypeScript and JavaScript and SvelteKit. I've rambled about iPhones as well. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. Hope to see you again. And low light performance of any. I've heard this before. I think I've heard it from like the event itself. I don't know if they mentioned it, but it's a common thing to say. I have seen the one preview review of the new camera, and they didn't find like particularly better improvements in the night mode. But the biggest improvement was on the phone that I had, the iPhone 11, when they introduced the software style enhancement of night mode, which was night and day, if I can pan like that. So I'm not expecting an upgrade like that, but still, definitely, I think it will be a bit more useful in the dark as well. Anyway, for everyone or anyone that is picking up a new one, hope you get to try out, and by the next stream we have opinions on how they are. And again, remember, let me know in any videos comments what you want to see, and I'll get on it. Thanks again, and lovely weekends, lovely evenings.